So to dive in on recruiting a little bit here, decommitment tonight. Tovani Mizell opens things up. I will say, not a total surprise that he did this. I am surprised about the timing of this. I didn't know that it was going to happen this early or think that it would happen this early, but I didn't have a great feeling about Tovani Mizell being in this class for the long term. And that's partially because Georgia had already accepted the commitment of a second back in Dwight Phillips. And then they're keeping the gas on for guys like Cam Davis and Chauncey Bowens, who are FSU and Florida commits, respectively. So it wasn't like they were kind of pulling back from it. They were continuing to pursue other guys. Mizell took a tumble in the recent On 300 update. I think he's still a good player. He's still a four-star guy, 6'1", 193. He's playing at a great school at DeMatha Catholic and was playing in Florida prior to that. But, this was not maybe a huge shocker. And I'll be honest, right now I think one of those two guys is probably my pick to be the second guy in this class. Cam Davis or Chauncey Bowens would kind of be the two guys I would point to. I've heard a lot of buzz about how much Georgia likes Chauncey Bowens. And boy, that would probably just rip the heart out of Billy Napier and the Gainesville staff. And probably nothing would excite Kirby Smart more than that. So he's a real dude, and I expect him to continue to climb the ranks. Like I said, not crazy to see Mizell out of this, but the timing a bit strange. But you got to think, listen, Georgia didn't really find their guy at running back last year. I mean, they pursued, obviously, Justice Haynes and Richard Young for the entirety of the cycle. But Roderick Robinson didn't even really come onto the radar, if I'm remembering correctly, until like May of last year. So the spring
he was late.
Yeah, the spring window is pretty key in terms of evaluations and finding other guys. But they've already got some really highly rated guys. Jarrett Gibson is going to OV to Georgia, the number one running back in the class. He's spent some time living in Georgia, Florida ties down there. Texas feels good about him right now, but Dogs aren't giving up. They're taking two in this class at a bare minimum. And it wouldn't shock me if there was a third, possibly, if they felt like they got the right three guys. They're going to keep pressing at that running back spot. I don't think that there's any doubt about that. And, Mizell was in, now he's out. Good luck to the guy. And we'll see if they loop back around on it. I'm not expecting that at this point. Elsewhere, we did some RPM picks today, right?
Yeah, you guys have a new model for the RPMs. What's going on over there?
Yeah, it was RPM Wednesday, which is a new holiday that On3 is celebrating some once in a while as of today. So we made some RPM
pancake breakfast. We do it every Wednesday.
Yeah, we put.
Hey, listen, I've been told that if they really get it going and it catches some steam, it'll be better than Arbor Day.
Yeah. Yeah. Somebody mentioned DeMarcus Riddick over in the comments, and I wrote about that on the board. There was a pick in today for Alabama. I've been told the Crimson Tide feel pretty good coming off of his visit, but I haven't heard that there's anything imminent there, and even from the Bama end, that's the case. So interesting to see how that ends up playing itself out. Alabama definitely gained some steam. Auburn's a school that he's been looking at pretty closely too.
Keep in mind on the RPM stuff with DeMarcus Riddick, you can't pick Georgia right now. Mm-hmm. Like, you absolutely can't. I remember the same thing happening with Terry Godwin back in the day when everybody was like, man, Jake, why haven't you put in a pick for Terry Godwin for Georgia? I'm like, dude, he's been committed to Georgia forever. I can't pick Georgia. Like, I'm not picking anybody because I can't pick Georgia. Calm down.
Right.
So just keep that in mind when you look at these RPM picks.
Yeah, and listen, DeMarcus Riddick said all the right things when he committed, and even when he committed, listen, the kid's from Alabama. I mean, at the end of the day, those guys are not easy to get out of that state. If Auburn and Alabama want them, look. So okay, hold on, wait, scroll down just a little bit there, Wes. No, scroll down back to the stories. New RPM pick for Alabama to flip SEC commit. Auburn Tigers major threat to flip 4-star Georgia LB. Yeah. what do you want, man? I mean, they both think it's going to happen. So, I think Georgia has a great shot with DeMarcus Riddick. He grew up a Georgia fan. Family loves it. The ties are strong in Alabama, though, clearly. And everybody's feeling themselves right now, as you can tell from what's going on there. So, and he's going on. He has been to Auburn a couple of times. So definitely a team to watch for him for sure. So anyway, that's going to be one to watch. I'll say that.
I suspect that if Georgia holds on to Glenn Schumann for another season, if Glenn Schumann is Georgia's linebackers coach when DeMarcus Riddick puts pen to paper, that Georgia's going to get him, because Glenn Schumann doesn't lose them, man. He just doesn't lose them. He goes and gets the big timers and he keeps them. Georgia's recruited Alabama fairly well. Even when they got 1 and 2 from the state of Alabama a few years ago, 2019. They got Pickens, they got Clay Webb. Obviously, those two worked out much differently. But they were number 1 and 2 in Alabama. And I've always said, listen, it doesn't matter. There's a difference between recruiting evaluations and your recruiting acumen. And Georgia's got plenty of recruiting acumen. They don't always hit on the evaluations. Nobody does. But when you go into Alabama and get the number 1 and the number 2 player out of there, you've done something.
Yeah.
Speaking of flipping potentially a guy from Florida, kind of made me wonder, what do you think is the most satisfying flip that Georgia has benefited from a rival?
In history?
I was trying to think, I guess like in recent memory, I was trying to think back about a player that Georgia might have flipped from Florida, but I couldn't remember one.
Marcus Stroud. That was a good one.
Well, I knew Stroud.
That was the cover of Sports Illustrated.
It's been a minute ago.
God, I remember that. Go
check out the Road to Georgia, Improbable Twists and Incredible Turns on the Bulldogs recruiting trail for more information on the Marcus Stroud decommitment.
I didn't. Where is that? I haven't heard of this.
That's the book I wrote.
Oh, I know that. I didn't get a signed copy, so I don't know.
Appreciate that.
You're going to be signing copies up at the bookstore tonight at 1 a.m. if you want to head up there.
Devod Wilson wasn't a flip. It didn't really work out, but Devod Wilson was a one-time Florida commit. And then
y'all think about it and put it in the comments. I put Roe and Roos on the spot here, but just a little food for thought. What is the best flip from a rival that Georgia benefited from? There have been some painful ones that really kicked Georgia in the teeth. Derek Brown was a tough one. I don't even know.
That wasn't a flip.
Auburn, it wasn't even really a flip.
Yeah, Georgia led for a long time, and I don't think there was ever really a commitment imminent. But I think once Mark Richt was a big deal to that family. And, Auburn had kind of, I think once the Rick rumors started to really kick up that he was going to get fired, I think Georgia lost a lot of steam with him in a short amount of time. And that was
Uncle Glenn says Pickens.
Pickens is a big one. Georgia flipped him from Bama at the last minute.
Was it Auburn?
No,
right?
Auburn. He
was Auburn. You're right. For some reason, I was thinking Alabama. Yeah, it was Auburn.
Yeah, that's right.
Matthew C. says Justin Fields from Penn State. Yeah, that was
he and Jaden Hazelwood were like number 1 and number 2 in that class, as best I remember. And Hazelwood was committed to Georgia at one point and then decommitted. And then I remember the Pickens commitment. Like I got word that was going down like about 5 minutes before it happened.
Me too.
And I just started scrambling. And I
was in a Kroger parking lot.
Nobody. That was not on. That was not on anybody's radar.
Yeah,
that was going to happen. And it was like almost like it was like that classic Jeb Bush campaign thing where he when he committed to Georgia and they were in that place, they were like, it was almost like, please clap. There was nobody thought.
Yes, you could definitely pick that up, even like watching it on the stream.
Jake Fromm's a good one. Quay Walker, another good one. That was also a direct flip. Justin Fields technically wasn't a direct flip because he was committed to Penn State, decommitted, stayed decommitted, and stayed decommitted for a couple of months before Jake Roos witnessed it from a bush. I
was in
Michael
Germany
Williams
when he
was a pretty good one recently. Not a rival flip, but Michael was a big impact.
But I think all things considered, think about Quay Walker, Alabama. You think about Quay Walker being a first round pick. I mean, I think that's a good one. LSU. Yep. I mean, Monty Rice is another one, even though LSU's not a big.
That was another late one too, man. That was like a 11th hour one for sure.
Yeah, that was after that was before the early signing period.
But he was
an early enrollee.
Was that not the same class that Riley Ridley was in, and he just showed up to campus?
No, that was the next class. Riley Ridley was in Kirby's first class.
That was like the first two. That was like, God, that was back to back. That was so tough.
I don't think Aziz was a flip from LSU. He committed.
No,
he was never committed.